They thought they could break us. They thought they could bury our dead, deny our justice, and we would simply fade into the cosmic dust. They were wrong. Let me tell you something about humanity. We didn't just stumble into the stars, we earned our place with sweat, blood, and a stubborn refusal to be ignored. By 2287, we'd spent decades clawing our way into the galactic spotlight, proving to species millennia older than us that Earth was more than just a nursery world. Commander Jake Morrison, a man whose spine was forged in 2 decades of service, stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, a titan of steel and defiance, approaching the Council station. He'd lived long enough to see humanity finally considered equal by species who'd charted nebulae before our ancestors discovered fire. Our chief diplomat, Captain Laura Bennett, had spent 3 grueling years navigating the labyrinthine protocols of galactic politics. She'd faced down the elegant, silken Ashiri, the towering, granite-skinned Kryn, the crystalline, light-communicating Vexil, and 14 other species, all of whom saw humans as curious, boisterous children. Laura, with a fierce intellect and an even fiercer will, had convinced them we deserved a seat at their impossibly ancient table. Today was the day. The day humanity would cast its first vote, a provisional member of the Galactic Council. Back on Earth, across a dozen vibrant colony worlds, billions held their breath. Children born under alien suns looked up at their parents, eyes wide with the promise of protection, trade, and technology that could supercharge our civilization overnight. Celebrations had already erupted: New York, London, Tokyo, the nascent cities of Mars and Europa, for everyone believed this was our golden age. A new dawn. But not everyone rejoiced. The Thrak Dominion, a brutal military empire of 4 allied species, had held the Eastern Spiral Arm in an iron fist for 6 centuries. Their war magistrate, Kurvax, was a creature carved from battle-scarred arrogance, a brute who believed diplomacy was a weakness and strength was the only law. From the moment humanity first proposed membership, Kurvax had snarled his opposition. He saw our rapid expansion, our burgeoning fleets, not as progress, but as a direct threat to the Thrak's suffocating grip. The vote took place in the Grand Chamber, a hall so vast its walls seemed woven from starlight itself. Laura stood at its heart, her diplomatic uniform a stark symbol of Earth's aspirations. Her voice, translated into 17 languages by advanced computers, carried the hope of 10 billion souls as she spoke of peace, cooperation, and mutual prosperity. Then came the silence. A palpable, heavy stillness as the votes were cast. The Ashiri, a yes. The Kryn, a yes. A few others followed. And then, the Thrak delegation rose as one, a deliberate, contemptuous act, and walked out before the tally was complete. It was an insult that transcended species, a raw, undeniable rejection. The final count flashed across the displays, 9 in favor, 8 against. Humanity was in. But barely. Laura should have felt triumph, but a cold dread coiled in her gut. She knew. She knew the price of this fragile victory. On the Horizon's bridge, Jake saw the same grim understanding on the faces of his hardened crew. They were Colonial Defense Force veterans. They knew what it meant when a titan of an empire felt threatened. The celebrations on Earth raged on, oblivious. But those who understood the brutal calculus of galactic power knew humanity had just painted a target on its back, a beacon for those who would crush defiance. 3 weeks later, the cosmic shoe dropped. On a Tuesday morning, station time, the mining colony on Terra Nova went utterly, terrifyingly silent. 40,000 human lives. Families, schools, parks, a piece of Earth, 200 light-years away, providing the lifeblood of our infrastructure. Admiral Paul Carter, commander of Earth's Third Fleet, received the alert. A simple, chilling message: every channel, dead. Simultaneously. Long-range sensors picked up garbled readings, fractured and nonsensical. Paul ordered his fleet to jump. He prayed. Prayed it was a malfunction. Prayed it was anything but what his gut screamed it was. 6 agonizing hours later, as their FTL drives navigated the colossal gravity wells between stars, the fleet dropped back into normal space. The sensor operators, veterans of countless void engagements, went silent. Then, one by one, they turned from their screens, faces etched with unspeakable horror. Admiral Paul rose from his command chair, his heart hammering, and walked to the main display. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. Terra Nova was gone. The orbital habitats, home to 40,000 souls, were shattered, twisted metal shards swirling like broken toys. Mining platforms, melted slag. Bodies. Everywhere. Frozen, tumbling, faces locked in silent screams of terror and pain. Search and rescue ships moved through the wreckage, futilely. There were no survivors. Not one. Every man, woman, and child. Gone. Wiped from existence by military-grade weapons, white-hot enough to vaporize titanium, to shred reinforced bulkheads like tissue paper. Among the dead were the families of 300 Navy crew members, scattered across the fleet. Admiral Paul sent the notifications. He watched strong men and women crumple, their children, spouses, parents, wiped away in an instant. The evidence was undeniable. The weapon signatures burned into the twisted metal, the molecular traces in the expanding debris field. This wasn't an accident. Not pirates. Not a natural disaster. This was murder. Genocide. On a scale humanity hadn't seen since its darkest, most brutal wars. And someone, somewhere, was going to pay. In blood. Jake Morrison brought the ESS Horizon to Terra Nova 2 days after the massacre. His crew worked without sleep, recovering bodies, meticulously gathering evidence. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks, a genius of sensor technology, spent 48 unbroken hours analyzing the weapon signatures. What he found silenced everyone on the bridge. The energy patterns were a perfect match. Thrak military weapons. Heavy plasma cannons, the kind mounted on their battlecruisers and destroyers. No doubt. No possibility of error. The signature was as unique as a fingerprint, and Ryan had cross-referenced it with Earth's classified intelligence databases. Admiral Paul sent the evidence, raw and unadulterated, directly to the Galactic Council, bypassing every diplomatic hurdle. He demanded an emergency session. Laura Bennett, still at the Council complex, received orders from Earth, present the case. With Ryan's meticulous analysis, survivor testimony from nearby systems, and visual evidence so horrific it could make stars weep, she prepared. The emergency session convened in the same grand chamber where humanity's membership had been so grudgingly approved. Laura walked to the center, holographic displays igniting around her, images of the ruined colony, the cold data of weapon analysis, the haunting faces of 40,000 dead. She spoke with a controlled fury, her voice a steel blade, detailing the irrefutable evidence. Thrak weapons. Genocide. Innocent civilians. War Magistrate Kervax rose, his alien features twisting into a sneer of contempt. He spoke in the harsh, clicking language of his species, his words translated for all to hear. He called the evidence fabricated. Claims humanity was orchestrating a crisis, manipulating the Council for military support to seize Thrak territory. He spat accusations. Humans were known for deception. This was a false flag, a self-inflicted wound to justify aggression. Laura tried to respond, but Council protocols silenced her. Kervax ranted for 20 minutes, weaving a tapestry of lies. Humanity destroyed its own colony, the evidence was manufactured, Earth's rapid militarization proved a pre-planned attack. Species allied with the Thrak, or simply terrified of them, began to nod. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien tongues, arguments clashing, while Laura stood alone, her truth displayed all around her, a silent accusation. Finally, High Chancellor Vorath, an ancient Ashiri, brought order. He announced a vote, a formal investigation into the Terra Nova massacre. Simple majority. Laura felt a flicker of hope. Surely, no one could look at this evidence and deny justice. The votes came in. The Ashiri, yes. A few others, yes. Then, the Thrak, no. Their 3 allied species, no. The numbers climbed. Finally, 8 votes for investigation. 9 against. The chamber exploded. Vorath, his voice like dry leaves, raised a hand for silence. He spoke the formal, glacial language of council law. Without an investigation, no sanctions. The matter was closed. Humanity, he suggested, should focus on rebuilding, not on baseless accusations. Perhaps, he added, Earth had enemies it didn't know, or its evidence collection was flawed, being so new to galactic politics. Something snapped inside Laura. Not broke, but hardened. She saw it then, laid bare in their alien faces. They knew. They simply didn't care. Humanity was too new, too weak, too insignificant to risk conflict with the Dominion. Politics over people. Power over justice. Council protocols allowed one final statement. Laura walked back to the center. Her eyes, human eyes, met theirs, even those whose vision defied human comprehension. Her voice, slow, clear, etched every word into the galactic record. She told them that today, they had shown humanity the true face of galactic justice. 40,000 dead, and the Council had chosen politics over truth. She called them cowards. Hiding behind procedure, behind votes, while innocent people bled. She promised them. Humanity would remember. For as long as humans existed. Then, she uttered words that made even the translation computers pause before rendering them into alien tongues. Humanity would find the truth themselves, and when they did, there would be a reckoning that would shake the foundations of the Council. Earth had tried to play by their rules, and been betrayed. Now, humanity would make its own rules. She turned. She walked out. Protests erupted, demands for censure, but she was gone. Jake watched the transmission from the Horizon's bridge. He saw the fire in Laura's eyes, blazing across light years. Within hours, Earth issued its own decree, all diplomatic personnel recalled. Every ambassador, every trade delegate, every cultural attaché. A complete severance. The message, for those who understood true diplomacy, was chillingly clear. Admiral Paul Carter receives new orders, encrypted, from the Secretary of Defense. 2 hours to decode. Simple, brutal, definitive. He was authorized to find out who destroyed Terra Nova, by any means necessary. Unlimited access to military intelligence, black operations funding, experimental weapons. The orders ended with 5 words that sent a cold tremor down his battle-hardened spine: make them pay for this. The Horizon was no longer a diplomatic escort. It was a hunter. The flagship of a task force dedicated to retribution. Admiral Paul gave them full authorization to operate outside normal protocols. Captain Lisa Hayes, an intelligence officer, joined the crew, bringing access to spy networks Jake hadn't even known existed. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, a veteran of covert operations, knew how to peel back the layers of galactic deceit. Their investigation began with the obvious: where was the Zthrak fleet during the attack? Official records claimed a battle group was on training exercises. Marcus, working 18-hour days, devoured sensor logs, shipping traffic, stolen black market data. He found discrepancies. Fuel consumption reports that didn't match claimed movements. Someone had altered the records. Imperfectly. The conspiracy was deeper than just the Zthrak. Someone on the Council had known. And helped cover it up. Laura Bennett, her diplomatic career incinerated, her determination sharper than ever, joined Jake's crew as strategic advisor. They began planning. They knew it meant war. They also knew 40,000 dead humans deserved justice. Even if it meant burning the entire Galactic Council to the ground. The ESS Horizon transformed. No longer a vessel of diplomacy, it became an instrument of precise, unwavering wrath. Admiral Paul granted access to tech most commanders only dreamed of: experimental sensors that tracked FTL movements, quantum computers that devoured alien encryption in hours. Lisa Hayes converted the main conference room into an intelligence hub, its walls covered in data streams, star charts, and the faces of Zthrak officers who might have given the order. Marcus Webb worked himself to exhaustion, finding the cracks in the official narrative. The Zthrak's Battle Group 73 had supposedly been in the Outer Rim. But Marcus discovered their fuel consumption indicated they'd been elsewhere, their navigation logs expertly, but not perfectly, scrubbed. The breakthrough came when Lisa, a digital phantom, hacked into a supposedly decommissioned Zthrak military comm satellite. Its encryption, military-grade and thought impenetrable, fell to Earth's quantum processors in 3 days. What they found was a sickening confirmation: orders to Battle Group 73. Proceed to Terra Nova. Eliminate all human presence. The orders came from War Magistrate Kervax himself. Jake stared at the translated messages, a cold, unyielding rage building in his chest. The orders were clinical, precise. Terra Nova, a target of opportunity. A demonstration of the consequences of challenging Thrak dominance. Discussions on how to cover it up, blame pirates, a reactor malfunction. It was all planned. Calculated. Murder. But then, a more disturbing detail. References to consultations with unnamed council members who had approved the operation. The Thrak had not acted alone. Lisa cross-referenced communication patterns, finding encrypted channels between Thrak command and representatives from 3 other council species. They needed more. The hunt led them from military databases to the dark underbelly of galactic civilization. Marcus suggested deep water, a sprawling habitat built into an asteroid, where information brokers dealt in secrets as dangerous as they were valuable. Jake, Marcus, and Lieutenant Sophie Grant, a combat specialist honed in Earth's special forces, took a small shuttle. Civilian clothes, untraceable weapons. Deep water was a maelstrom of alien life, a maze of corridors reeking of strange chemicals. They found Rizix, an information broker with too many eyes and a reputation for knowing everything governments wanted hidden. Jake laid a credit chip on the table, enough to buy a small ship. Rizix's eyes, all of them, fixed on it. The broker, speaking broken English learned from human smugglers, confirmed he knew them. Knew what they wanted. Terra Nova was valuable. And deadly. He produced a data chip. Surveillance footage from a civilian freighter, passing an adjacent system on the day of the attack. It showed Thrak warships entering Terra Nova's system, weapons already charging. Timestamps proved they'd waited. Received final authorization. Then, they'd opened fire. Coordinated precision. Habitats, mining platforms, even small civilian escape craft. Systematic murder. Captured in horrifying detail. But Rizix had more. In a whisper, he spoke of rumors from other brokers. Council meetings. The human problem. A lesson needed to be taught. Terra Nova, a demonstration. Humanity's protection, conditional. Jake paid. Secured the data. As they rose to leave, Sophie's combat instincts flared. Thrak enforcers. 6 of them. Someone had betrayed them. The fight was brutal, swift, contained within the cramped bar. Sophie's plasma bolts burned through the first 3 before they even reacted. Marcus pulled Jake behind a pillar, returning fire. The Thrak wore body armor, carried military-grade weapons, but they'd made a fatal mistake, underestimating 3 humans. Sophie moved like a predator, using the screaming alien patrons as cover, her shots finding gaps in armor with surgical precision. One Thrak, a hulking brute, closed on Jake, a blade arcing to carve through steel. Jake, 20 years a soldier, blocked with his forearm guard, driving his own blade up into the alien's unprotected throat. Marcus dropped another. Sophie finished the last 2. The entire engagement lasted less than 60 seconds. They ran. Alarms wailed through deep water. Their shuttle launched, escaping the docking clamps by a hair's breadth, jumping to FTL just clear of the asteroid field. 6 hours later, the Horizon picked them up. Jake sent the footage to Admiral Paul. The message contained 2 words, "We have proof." Admiral Paul reviewed the evidence, then contacted Fleet Admiral Helen Ross, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's military. She watched Terra Nova burn, read the intercepted orders. Then, she made the decision that would echo through history. Within 24 hours, every shipyard in Earth's solar system and across the 12 colony worlds received a single, devastating order: full military production. Reserve units activated. Veterans, their combat reflexes sharpened by age, returned. Earth prepared for war. This time, we wouldn't ask permission. Jake stood on the Horizon's bridge, reading reports. Dreadnoughts, pulled from mothballs, upgraded with secret weapons. New fighter wings, pilots born in the void, capable of outmaneuvering anything the galaxy had seen. Millions volunteered. They'd seen the footage from Terra Nova. They understood. The galaxy wouldn't give us justice. We had to take it. The Galactic Council sent messages, demanding Earth stand down, accept their ruling. High Chancellor Voreth himself transmitted a formal warning: military action against a council member would mean sanctions, expulsion. Fleet Admiral Helen Ross responded. Her message, broadcast on every frequency, in every language, was stark: the council had failed. Failed its most basic duty to protect the innocent, to punish the guilty. Humanity had sought justice through their channels and been betrayed by cowards and conspirators. She invoked Earth's sovereign right to self-defense. Declared the Zthrak Dominion's genocide an act demanding retribution. Her message ended with a promise that sent shockwaves across Council space: humanity will respond. And the galaxy will learn what it means to make an enemy of Earth. War Magistrate Kervax, on his fortress world, watched Earth's mobilization and laughed. These newcomers? Challenged the Zthrak Dominion? His species had conquered 6 others, crushed every resistance for 6 centuries. Humans had a few dozen warships, some scattered colonies. The Zthrak fleet numbered in the hundreds, its weapons honed through generations of endless war. Kervax sent his commander's orders: an easy victory. A lesson to the galaxy. He made a fatal mistake. He judged humanity by the standards of other council species, who had grown soft on centuries of peace and bureaucratic rules. He didn't understand. Humans were different. Earth's history was written in blood and conflict. We had spent millennia perfecting the art of war against ourselves before ever reaching the stars. The Zthrak were about to learn a lesson that would cost them everything. The first strike came without warning. Without mercy. Captain Gregory Stone commanded a wolf pack of 6 stealth frigates, vessels Earth had secretly built for 5 years. Experimental light-bending technology, masked engine signatures. They slipped past Zthrak sensor networks, deep into Dominion territory. They struck simultaneously, across 3 star systems. The fuel depot at Kraraft Station erupted, a fireball visible from the planet. The ammunition stockpile on the moon of Vex detonated, cracking the moon's crust. The massive repair facility in orbit around the Zthrak Military Academy was vaporized by precisely placed missiles. Gregory's frigates were gone before the Zthrak even knew what hit them, jumping to FTL as enemy commanders scrambled, bewildered. Jake Morrison and the ESS Horizon joined the main battle fleet under Admiral Paul Carter. Target: the fortress world of Karnal, the military hub of Zthrak operations. The fleet assembled for assault was the largest humanity had ever sent into combat. 80 warships, including 12 new dreadnoughts, rushed into service, armed with particle beam cannons that sliced through shields and armor like paper, missile pods that saturated space with fire. They were built for one purpose: to annihilate any threat to humanity. For days through FTL, Jake prepared his crew. In the hangar bay, he addressed 3,000 men and women. He spoke of Terra Nova. Of the children. Of the justice denied. He told them, "Today, we show the galaxy what it means to make an enemy of Earth." A roar echoed through the ship. Jake saw it in their eyes, the same cold, burning fury in his own heart. The Zthrak were waiting at Karnal. Orbital defenses, weapons platforms, thousands of fighters, a fleet anchored around the fortress itself. Kervax had sent his best commanders. Losing Karnal would cripple the Dominion. They were confident. No one had ever breached Karnal's defenses in 300 years. Admiral Paul gave the order. The human fleet dropped out of FTL, a symphony of steel and fire. The battle began. 3 destroyers, caught in a crossfire, evaporated in seconds. Jake watched them die on his tactical displays. But they had served their purpose, drawing fire while the dreadnoughts moved into position. The dreadnoughts fired. Particle beams, pure concentrated energy, tore through space. Zthrak shields buckled, held for 3 agonizing seconds, then collapsed. Weapons platforms exploded, one after another, as the human fleet advanced with methodical, terrifying precision. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, from the Horizon's bridge, coordinated the fleet, executing a battle plan that would have made ancient Earth generals weep with pride. Ships moved in perfectly synchronized groups, supporting each other, concentrating fire, exploiting every weakness. Captain Lisa Hayes, a ghost in the machine, hacked the Thrak communication network, feeding false orders. Enemy ships repositioned to empty sectors. Fighter wings recalled for rearming just as they were about to engage. Thrak officers, confused and infuriated, saw their meticulously planned defense unravel. Humanity had learned, centuries ago, that victory wasn't just about bigger guns. It was about controlling information. Creating chaos. Lieutenant Sophie Grant led boarding parties onto captured weapons platforms. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand in cramped corridors. Thrak warriors, larger, stronger, met Earth's urban combat tactics. Flash grenades, tight formations, using the environment, making Thrak size a liability in confined spaces. Every platform captured provided invaluable intelligence. Sophie's teams disabled self-destructs, securing priceless technology. The battle for Karnal raged for 16 hours. The most intense combat most humans had ever witnessed. Ships died on both sides. Jake watched good people vanish from his displays. The horizon took a direct hit, 30 killed in the port weapons bay. Each death was a knife to his gut, but he kept giving orders. Grieving meant more would die. The Thrak fought with desperate ferocity, but they fought by the old rules, where battles ended in negotiated surrenders. Humanity fought by Earth's rules. War meant total destruction of the enemy's ability to resist. The human fleet did not stop. They did not accept surrender. They kept firing. Until every weapons platform was destroyed. Every enemy ship disabled or dead. The fortress itself, a monument to Thrak arrogance, burned in orbit around Karnal. Admiral Paul broadcast a message on all frequencies as the last Thrak ship went silent. This is for Terra Nova. For every innocent life the Thrak took. For every child who died in the cold of space. This is just the beginning. The galaxy will learn what it means to commit genocide against humanity. The message was picked up. Replayed. Within hours, everyone in Council space knew. Humans had destroyed Karnal. And Earth was no longer interested in negotiation. The Council demanded a ceasefire. High Chancellor Voreth called Earth's actions barbaric. Threatened intervention. Fleet Admiral Helen Ross's response was even shorter than her first. The Council had its chance. It chose politics and cowardice. Humanity will dictate the terms of peace now. Stand aside, or be swept aside. 3 Council species, blinded by fear and misplaced loyalty, made a catastrophic mistake. They sent military aid to the Thrak. Gregory Stone's stealth frigates found those convoys in deep space. Destroyed them. Then, they struck at the military installations of those 3 species, hitting their home systems with surgical precision. The message was explicit: aid the Thrak, become an enemy of humanity. Jake Morrison stood on the Horizon's bridge after Karnal, reviewing casualty reports. 8 ships. 2,000 crew. Each life a price paid in blood. He wondered if it was worth it. Lisa Hayes joined him, a data pad filled with intelligence on Thrak regrouping. Enemy attempting to build a defensive line. Jake looked at the star charts, the path deeper into Thrak territory. He thought of Terra Nova. 40,000 civilians. The Council's cold indifference. Kervax's lies. He felt no hesitation. He gave the order to prepare for the next assault. Humanity had learned a hard lesson. If you wanted justice in this galaxy, you had to take it yourself. And Earth was going to take enough justice to make the stars themselves burn. The war raged for 11 brutal months. The Thrak Dominion learned, far too late, what it meant to fight an enemy that would not stop. Jake Morrison's task force became a legend, striking deep behind enemy lines, vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. The ESS Horizon earned a reputation that made Thrak commanders shiver. Every engagement against it ended in disaster for the Dominion. Gregory Stone's stealth frigates were whispers of death, appearing from nowhere to sever supply lines, to obliterate military installations. The Zthrak threw everything they had, but they fought a species that had perfected warfare for 10 millennia on a single world before unleashing that knowledge upon the stars. The Galactic Council watched, paralyzed by growing horror, as humanity demonstrated capabilities thought impossible. Our ships moved faster, hit harder, fought with a terrifying coordination. The secret was simple, and more terrifying: centuries spent developing communication technology and tactical doctrines specifically for war, while other species enjoyed peace. Earth ships operated with quantum-encrypted comms that couldn't be jammed. Every captain saw what every other captain saw. They moved as one organism, not individual ships. Admiral Paul Carter led the main fleet from victory to victory. Each battle cost the Zthrak more than they could afford. Karnal was just the beginning. The industrial complex at Threx fell after a 3-day siege. The Zthrak Naval Academy on Brea was obliterated. Every military installation, every shipyard, every fleet base connected to the Terra Nova massacre was systematically dismantled. The Zthrak Dominion fought simply to survive. High Chancellor Vorith, finally grasping the abyss they faced, sent a personal message to Fleet Admiral Helen Ross, offering to reopen the Terra Nova investigation in exchange for a ceasefire. The response came back in an hour, brutal in its simplicity: the Council had its chance. It chose politics and cowardice. Earth will not negotiate with those who cannot be trusted. Humanity will decide when this war is over. Stand aside, or become targets. 3 more Council species, believing their strength superior, sent battle groups to defend Zthrak territory. Lisa Hayes intercepted their communications. Admiral Paul knew their movements before they even entered Zthrak space. When those Allied fleets arrived, human ships were waiting. The battles were short, brutal. Council species hadn't fought a real war in centuries, their tactics were antiquated. 60% of their ships were destroyed or captured. The survivors fled, carrying tales of Earth's terrifying efficiency. Laura Bennett, now Admiral Helen Ross's strategic advisor, meticulously identified every Council official involved in the cover-up. Lisa's intelligence network extracted communications proving complicity. Laura compiled a list: 8 Council representatives, dozens of military commanders, hundreds of bureaucrats. Admiral Helen authorized targeted strikes against the military facilities of these guilty species, making it clear civilian targets would not be touched. Humanity sought justice, not genocide. The breaking point arrived when humanity's combined fleet, over 200 warships from Earth and all 12 colony worlds, surrounded Axis Prime, the Council's home station. Jake Morrison brought the horizon to the fore of that intimidating formation. Axis Prime, sacred neutral territory, was supposed to be untouchable. Attacking it meant the collapse of the galactic order itself. Admiral Paul sent a message: surrender of all officials who deny justice for Terra Nova. Complete restructuring of Council authority. 6 hours to comply. War Magistrate Kervax saw his final chance. He rallied what remained of the Zthrak fleet, a mere 100 warships, for one last stand. Between the human fleet and Axis Prime, he broadcast a message, calling on all Council species to join him, to prove the galactic order was stronger than one angry species. 7 ships answered. That was all. The battle began when Kervax ordered fire, believing if humans fired back, they would be the aggressors. The Zthrak unleashed everything. Human shields absorbed the barrage. Then, Admiral Paul gave the order. The response was overwhelming. Dreadnought particle beams sliced Zthrak capital ships in half, pouring more energy into them in seconds than some stars produced in years. Marcus Webb coordinated with surgical precision. Human ships moved through the Zthrak formation like a blade through flesh. Sophie Grant led a boarding team onto Kervax's flagship, with orders to capture him alive. The fighting on the Zthrak command ship was savage. Kervax's personal guard were elite warriors. Sophie's team used every trick: flash grenades, tight formations, no mercy. Sophie herself cornered Kervax. When he reached for a detonator to destroy his ship, she shot him in both arms, dragged him from his chair. The battle ended in less than 4 hours. The Zthrak fleet was annihilated. Kervax, a whimpering captive, was taken aboard a human vessel to stand trial for genocide. High Chancellor Vorith, watching from the council chamber, finally understood. He called an emergency vote. 8 council representatives resigned rather than face prosecution. The vote passed. The council formally surrendered to Admiral Paul. Fleet Admiral Helen Ross addressed the galaxy from her flagship, Jake Morrison and Laura Bennett at her side. Her transmission, broadcast on every channel, translated into every language, was uncompromising. The Galactic Council, as it existed, is finished. It failed its most basic duty. It protected murderers. Humanity will never forget Terra Nova. We will never forgive those who deny justice. The new treaty was forged in fire. The Thrak Dominion was dissolved, its territories placed under joint administration by humanity and 3 neutral species. Kervax and 73 other Thrak commanders were handed to Earth authorities to stand trial for crimes against humanity. Council species who supported the cover-up paid massive reparations to the families of Terra Nova's victims, to Earth. The Council itself was reformed, with new rules written by humanity, with input only from those who had voted to investigate Terra Nova. No decision regarding genocide could be blocked by political alliances. Justice would be blind. Species violating these rules would face immediate military intervention. Jake stood on the Horizon's observation deck, watching work crews dismantle the old council station, rebuilding it to humanity's new design. Lisa joined him, holding a data pad with the final casualty figures: 40,000 civilians, 32,000 human military personnel, hundreds of thousands of Thrak and their allies. Numbers that represented lives. Lisa asked if it had been worth it. Jake was silent for a long time. He thought of the families, the crews, the terrible burden of command. But he also thought of what would have happened if humanity had accepted the Council's judgment. Those Thrak would have learned they could murder with impunity. Other species would have learned Earth was weak. The 40,000 dead would have died for nothing. Yes, Jake said, his voice raw. It was worth it. The galaxy learned a lesson that will shape its future for centuries. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity will never back down when its people are murdered. The Council had thought Earth would play by their rules. They had learned, too late, that humans made their own rules. In fire, and blood, and iron. The war changed the galaxy forever. Humanity, the young upstart, had proven that the old order was built on lies and political convenience. Other species, long victims of injustice, began to demand real investigations. The Council, reformed and ruthless, reopened decades-old cases. Earth became the single most influential species in Council space. Human technology, tactics, and philosophy spread like wildfire. The Thrak's former territories became a network of free systems, trading with Earth, adopting governments based on individual rights, not military might. Children on 100 worlds learned about Terra Nova and the war that followed, as an example of what happened when justice was denied to those willing to fight for it. Jake returned to the memorial on the rebuilt Terra Nova every year. He stood before the wall of black stone, carved with 40,000 names, surrounded by plants from Earth. He remembered the dead, the war, the terrible price. And above the names, the inscription, which he had helped write, echoed his soul: we were denied justice, and we took it ourselves. We were told to accept our loss and move on. We refused. This memorial stands as a promise to all who would harm humanity: we will remember. We will find you. And we will make you answer for every life you take. Never again will humans bow to those who think justice is optional. Never again will we trust others to protect us. We are humanity, and we will defend our own. And every time, he placed a single white flower at its base. And whispered the same words: we did not forget.